Good morning. Today's lead story is about how US is going to resume aid to Ukraine after meetings. It's amazing, but in the last 2 weeks, it appears that the peace process with Ukraine has got back on track. No thanks to the president, who, as you know, excoriated Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office a couple of weeks ago. Here is Secretary of State Marco Rubio around a very big table in Saudi Arabia with two diplomats from Ukraine. That's a marked difference from a couple of weeks ago when two Russian diplomats were meeting with the Americans. As you'll recall, that did not go down well with Ukraine. They suggested that they might not agree to any peace deal if they weren't at the table, which to me seems fairly reasonable. It's good to see Marco Rubio stepping up and showing some leadership. He, last Thursday in a cabinet meeting, took on Elon Musk in front of his boss, Donald Trump. And it looks to me like he's been playing a fairly significant role in the negotiations as they've gone forward. That's good, because Marco Rubio was not included particularly meaningfully in the Oval Office blow-up. He was relegated to sitting on a couch and looking very unhappy, frankly. His best quote in this article, remember Donald said that it would make good television, his blow up with Zelensky. And there's a really interesting quote from Rubio here. He says, this is, what's back on track here, hopefully, is peace. This is not Mean Girls. This is not some episode of some television show. So, again, Rubio sort of positing himself as an alternative to Trump. I suspect that in 2028, Rubio would be well positioned to run for president. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton also ran for president. You'll remember in 2016, although it didn't go so well for her. Now, what do we think about all this? Well, this is a significant walk back from the Trump administration. Whether or not Donald Trump is helming the walk back, it's a huge kind of climb down. You'll remember that Trump was being criticized for doing Putin's bidding a couple of weeks ago. And essentially, he was becoming quite unpopular as a result. There was a lot of concern raised that this was just playing into Russia's hands. Now, what they've done is essentially put forward a peace deal, which they've now said that is in Russia's court. They've also contemplated beginning some sanctions against Russia. You can see the position of the US sort of shifting, potentially in response to domestic concerns about popularity and being allied with Putin. That's good. Putin as well has faced a lot of concern domestically about being bloodthirsty and a dictator. You'll remember that Putin does tend to kill any opposition, but after a while, popular uprisings do tend to happen. I believe that's Marx who said that, particularly when you've got a billionaire in corrupt control of the country. Funny parallels between Russia and the US, isn't it? Fortunately, in this country, we do still have functioning elections, apparently. And even if the Russians do try to interfere in them, I believe that the US democratic processes work. So, I don't know. I'm actually cautiously optimistic about this story today. It shows that very concerning activity on behalf of Donald Trump has been checked, potentially by fears about domestic popularity. Yesterday, Trump was on the front lawn of the White House buying a red Tesla from Elon Musk, whose shares in his company have declined 50% since last December. There's also been a lot of sabotage at his Tesla dealerships around the US, so much so that yesterday Trump said that he would qualify those as, quote, domestic terrorism. When Trump doubles down on support for somebody, you know they're in trouble, because historically it doesn't go well for them always. So if I were Elon Musk, I'd be pretty concerned right now. This story today it ran at the same time as another story about Donald Trump potentially proposing a 50% tariff on Mexican metal Canadian metal, and then walking it back by the end of the day. Those two stories run kind of parallel on the front page, and one can't help but feeling that Trump was sort of hoping to capture some limelight yesterday, despite the efforts of his very capable Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Now, I don't know much about Marco Rubio. I do know that he's no angel, but yeah, you see there's Trump's This is the Russia story, and this is the Trump story, and coincidentally, there's some little piggies in the middle. The efforts of Rubio to steer this ship calmly through pretty treacherous waters are impressive. However, if I Google Marco Rubio and what's the worst thing he's said, I'm sure I'll come up with some absolute horrors. So maybe I'll do that later. Meantime, thanks for reading the newspaper with me so that you don't have to read the newspaper. I appreciate you. Please share this with your friends. Thanks.